Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. I wanted to start by thanking Elder Verna McGregor for beginning this day with a really touching welcome. I also want to acknowledge that we have all been welcomed onto the unceded and traditional territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe peoples. Thank you to our hosts, the National Aboriginal Capital Corporations Association, not only for organizing this important forum, but also for your continued advocacy, leadership, and economic support for Indigenous communities. My name is Laurel Broten, and I'm the CEO of Invest in Canada, Canada's foreign direct investment attraction and promotion agency. And I'm really excited to be here today to continue to listen and learn from Indigenous leaders and communities in support of our mandate to find the best companies to invest in Canada. And this includes advocating for Indigenous involvement and economic opportunity. When I was first reflecting on my collaboration with Indigenous communities in preparation for today, I thought about how my first connections to First Nations, as they do for many Canadians, are abundant, and they encompass many of my most treasured and earliest memories as a child. This morning's drumming with the Spirit Wolf Singers brought me right back to my earliest childhood memories. As a child, I was very fortunate to spend every single summer at my grandparents' very humble cottage on White Bear Lake in the White Bear First Nations, located just north of Carlisle, Saskatchewan, which is home to 4 First Nations: Cree, Anishinaabe, Nakota, and Dakota. And it was a very special place. I know it is still a special place, and it really grounded me in the historical realities of our country. Je m'appelle Laurel Broten et je suis le PDG d'Investir au Canada, l'agence canadienne de promotion et de l'attraction des investissements à l'étranger. Je suis ravie d'être ici aujourd'hui pour continuer à écouter et apprendre des chefs et des communautés autochtones en soutien de notre mandat, trouver les meilleures entreprises pour investir au Canada. Et cela inclut également la défense de l'implication et des opportunités économiques autochtones. Leading global organizations continue to choose Canada when deciding where to establish their projects, and they do that for good reason. Our talented workforce, abundant natural resources, and leadership in sustainable industries make transformational projects possible. Indigenous communities play a vital role in many of the world-leading projects. In fact, more than 35 Canadian energy projects with Indigenous investment were announced between 2022 and 2024, with a project scope of up to $14 billion. Indigenous communities are essential to these projects' success. They bring invaluable wisdom, culture, history, skilled labor, and deep knowledge of their lands and resources. Just take, for example, the Oneida Energy Storage Project, co-owned by Six Nation in Jarvis, Ontario. This project is the largest electric battery storage project in Canada. The project came to life with economic participation and co-ownership by the local Six Nations Indigenous community. And the Oneida Energy Storage Project is contributing to a prosperous future for its community, with established plans to educate the next generation to be employable in its systems. And this is just one of the many recent success stories of Indigenous partnerships within Canadian projects. We hope to see more like this one, especially with the recent federal government announcement of the $5 billion Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program. This program will unlock access to capital for Indigenous communities and spur new avenues for economic capacity. Investir au Canada a la responsabilité et le privilège de mettre en lumière la proposition de valeur du Canada sur la scène mondiale, comprend l'apprentissage et la rencontre avec des chefs de l'entreprise autochtone, l'aide à attirer des capitaux pour leurs projets et un travail visant à générer l'opportunité économique à soutenir les efforts de réconciliation. Invest in Canada has the responsibility and the privilege of highlighting Canada's value proposition on the world stage. This work includes learning about and meeting with Indigenous leaders and businesses, helping to attract capital to their projects, and working to generate economic opportunity and advance reconciliation efforts. In our conversations with global investors, we showcase the responsibility and collective advantage of collaborating with Indigenous communities. We recognize that successful Indigenous partnerships may include long-term stable revenue streams, decision-making powers, and capacity and skills opportunities in business and management. We recognize the need for free, prior, and informed consent with the stewards of the land and stress that this consent isn't only of benefit to First Nations communities. It's a key ingredient in the recipe for a project's success. Nous avons pris la parole sur la scène de New York, Paris et Londres pour rencontrer des partenaires et investisseurs mondiaux concernant des projets dans le secteur de minéraux critiques. We've taken the stages in New York, Paris, and London to seek global partners and investors for projects in the critical mineral sector with proximity to Indigenous communities, including key materials export to international markets. Take, for example, the North Isle Copper and Gold, a Vancouver-based resource company that owns one of the most promising copper-gold porphyry projects in Canada. North Isle was a feature project in our New York Critical Minerals pitch presentations, and North Isle works collaboratively and towards productive economic futures for the First Nations communities it shares its land with. And I want to highlight two important agreements they've signed. First, an agreement made with the Quatsina First Nation outlines a designated joint implementation committee to evaluate matters of mutual interest, including any potential future activities by North Isle's subsidiary mining corporation. The agreement also includes funding by North Isle for community initiatives and intention to identify opportunities for business development and third-party funding. A second agreement made by the Tlahtla-Sequala First Nation likewise formalizes open, honest dealings and ongoing project engagement, and additionally outlines capacity, funding, and benefits sharing, protection of cultural heritage resources, economic development, and job creation, and more. And these examples just remind us that consent is not a box checked once. Rather, consent is an early, ongoing, and engaged process. We use our space on global stages to educate investors about these best practices, outlining the need for meaningful consultation, engagement, and partnership with Indigenous communities. Beyond pitches and presentations, our team is also focused on supporting and strengthening Indigenous engagement with the federal government on foreign investment opportunities. We amplify Indigenous economic development corporations' efforts to attract investment alongside federal partners. And within our four walls, we are committed to learning about Canada's First Nations communities, understanding their valuable perspectives and history, and partnering with Indigenous-led businesses. Our work is only beginning, and we are eager and energized to expand our efforts. En tant que défenseur de longue date de la réconciliation économique, je suis reconnaissante d'assister au Forum de la prospérité des Autochtones cette semaine et je suis reconnaissante envers de nombreux leaders et innovateurs qui partagent ici leur expérience et meilleures pratiques. Nous vous remercions. As a lifelong advocate for economic reconciliation, I am very grateful to be attending the Indigenous Prosperity Forum this week, and I am very grateful for the many leaders and innovators who are here sharing their experiences, insight, and best practices. We thank you. I look forward to meeting all of you, to hearing from you, to working together, and to uncovering new opportunities, perhaps in future food, like we just heard on the stage, for Invest in Canada to continuing championing Indigenous partnerships and economic reconciliation. With that, I'm going to hand it over to our amazing MC, Stan. Thank you very much. Merci, miigwech.